Hey guys, Idiot Sandwich here. I'm a fucking fool. I just recorded for about 30 minutes without realizing that I had paused the recording by accident because I pressed the spacebar and that paused it. So that was really sad. But I was asked by you guys to make a Dark Masters primer. I was surprised that more than like 2 people said it. It was a couple actually, which I was very happy about in a way, but also dreading it. I spent a lot of time making this little slideshow as well as a little bit of the side stuff that you'll be seeing here. So if you guys like it, please leave a like, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Getting on to it. What is Dark Masters? What's my qualifications? Why is this random idiot talking about it? Well, not only have I played this deck since it came out, its inception, back in BT15 when we got the cards. I've spent a lot of time here, my love child. I have topped Ultimate Cups and the like before. My highest currently is top 8, hoping to do better. And with this deck in particular, my highest in Ultimate Cup is 17th place, which I'm very proud about. Not humble brag, Anyways, what I'm going to try and impart onto you guys is not only counterplay for the decks that I think you'll be running into in the current meta, but also kind of the way that I ended up getting there, as well as a lot of the notable cards that you can kind of play in this deck, and the engine, why we play it, and kind of how it goes. So, how does deck building work for this deck in particular? Well, we are a toolbox, very similar to things like Galaxy Toolbox. However, whereas they use the Galaxy bottom end with Lunamons and Chronomons and stuff in order to get the value they need to reach their powerful level 6s, we kind of skip a lot of that, and we use the Dark Masters engine to kind of just cheat out level 6s really cheaply in order to get a ton of card advantage. So we're able to kind of circumvent a lot of the problems that old Mega Zoo had, which is after we kind of run out of spells and utility, we're just hoping to top deck something. With Dark Masters engine, we're usually adding around 2 to 4 cards to our hand per turn outside of our draw, which is really good. And then we're hopefully making use of those really powerful level 6s and 7s, as well as level 6 bodies that we're able to cheat out to win the game or set up a board state that our opponent isn't really able to interact with. However, because of that, we kind of trade cards in and out very frequently and very, I think, rapidly, depending what the meta game we expect to go into looks like. So, for example, if you're playing against a lot of Hercules Kabuterimon, your deck will look very different than someone who's looking to go against a lot of Mirage Galgamon, because the cards that you need to beat that deck more consistently will be completely different than the cards that you would expect to beat a Mirage Galgamon player. So, it's a deck that you're going to need to change out cards a lot depending on the different kinds of tournaments you're going to be partaking in. It's probably the most difficult part of the deck, is understanding what you're going to be playing against, prepping for that, and making some concessions here and there for okay, I may see this deck, but I can't expend deck slots to make my win percentage against them go up, because if I do, I have to cut other slot cards here, and I know I'm going to see these decks that these cards end up beating, and I can't risk that decrease in percentage chance to beat them. So here's the current list. It's outdated even now because I've changed it a lot over the last 6 days. However, the only 2 things different about this list compared to what I'm playing right now is Edamon and Mega Gargo have been cut, and I've added in an extra Vikemon, and I've added in a Golfmon. I'm not completely sold on the Golfmon, but it's definitely something I want to at least test out. It has some potential utility against decks like Purple Hybrid, so I decided I'm going to adjust that. I decided it's probably worthwhile to at least test it a little bit. There's a lot to say here, but I will save it. We're going to kind of go over the engine first, so let's just get into that. So for those of you that don't know what the Dark Masters engine is, it's a suite of level 5s, level 6s, and a single level 7 that I think work very well as a core that can be supplemented with a lot of different kinds of synergies. I've seen anywhere from just Omnimon variants to the Ace variant that I coined, to even just focusing very heavily on APOC and playing a lot of level 6s that are very utility based for it. Explaining what each kind of thing does, we'll go with the colors first, because each color has their own inheritable. Greens have piercing, blues have blocker, purples have retaliation, and blacks have a reboot. And the idea behind the deck without like any of like the supplementary engines kind of playing their own part, is simply play out one of the level 5s. The level 5 looks at the top 4 cards of your deck. You can add up to 2 level 6 or higher Digimon from among them to your hand, and then you bottom deck the rest. At the end of your turn, you can delete one of your Digimon. It'll probably be the one that you just played out. Place it into the trash, and then you may place 1 level 6 Dark Master trait Digimon from your hand, specifically, into your breeding area. So very similar to the Sovereign's deck from not too long ago, except these guys require you to, instead of just playing a guy out for free, you are deleting yourself. It's 1 less memory than that, which is nice, and they're also a little bit smaller. The level 6s each have their own on-play when attacking effects. For Machine Dramon, it's Digivolve 2. Pied is pop a something that is unsuspended. For Metal Sea, it's bounce a level 5 or lower, and for Puppet, it is bottom deck a suspended. They all have the same your turn effect, being during your turn, the Digimon cannot Digivolve into a Digimon that isn't white, and then they have the same end of your opponent's turn effect, which means that these guys, at the end of your opponent's turn, delete themselves, and then you may play a Dark Masters from hand. The deletion is mandatory, however, so they do not last very long. So the next step of the game plan would be play out the level 5, place a guy in the back. Next turn, you promote the guy in the back, you swing, you get some value out of him, and then you play another level 5, and then you search the top 2 again, and then you pop the old level 6 to place a new level 6 in raising, allowing you to keep the level 5 on board and kind of just like keep accruing advantage that way, ideally adding 1 or 2 cards every single time with your level 5s. A bit bare bones of an engine, but it's a very good start. On to the level 7. Apocalypse is a win condition that the engine provides. Essentially just saying, if you have 3 or more Dark Masters in your trash, you can kind of just play this guy out for a reduced cost of 4 for every Dark Master that you put underneath, up to 3, so you can reduce its play cost all the way down to 3 play cost by placing up to 3 Dark Masters underneath. The ideal ones in the list is Metal Seedramon plus any of the other 3. Metal Seedramon's the only one that you really want underneath because it gives that valuable blocker inherit. And then end of your turn, you may place up a level 6 or lower Digimon underneath this card in order to activate its on-play effect. And then for every level 6 card in this card's sources, your opponent mills 2. So if you place up to 3 Dark Masters and then you then place another card underneath that is a level 6, you'll activate its on-play effect, depending on what it is, and then your opponent will mill 8 cards. It's a very powerful win condition, and if APOC ends up lasting on turn for any more than 1, let's say you mill 8 and then you mill 10, that's backbreaking for a lot of different decks. Mephistomon is listed there as well. We will get to Mephistomon in a little bit. Even though it technically falls into the Dark Master's engine, the only notable part of it being in this engine is the fact that it can play itself out for a reduced cost of 3 by bottom decking a Apocalypse in trash, as well as it can be added to hand off of one of your level 5 searchers because of the fact that it, when revealed by one of those searchers, is considered a level 6. I will also mention Golfmon when we get to the non-aces level 6s, just because it's unique, but I'm not sold on it yet. Onwards to Zort. Zort is, I think, probably one of the strongest cards printed in its set, in its era, well above its time. For those of you that don't know what Zort does, you just, when Digivolving, trash top 3 cards of your deck. Then you may play up to 2 black or purple Digimon cards with play cost of 8 or less from your trash without paying their memory cost. So notably, you can Digivolve here and here, specifically because it is a white Digimon, as well as these cards end up being black and purple. So if we add that loop in mind, the idea then becomes play out a level 5, preferably Lady Devi or Gigadra, delete it, place a Dark Masters in the back, promote the Dark Masters next turn, swing if you feel comfortable trying to get that value, or if you're wary of your opponent's security, you elect not to swing and you just Digivolve for 6 onto the Omnizort. Omnizort will draw and then you'll mill 3. Ideally, at that point, you will have milled a second Searcher or another one of your utility level 5s, and then you'll play them both out. You will search again off of the level 5 that you play out, and then potentially search a second time or get some utility effect from the other level 5 that you play out. Or from a level 6 that you play out, because all of your aces are play cost 7 or less, black or purple, meaning that you can get really good utility out of them as well off of the Omnizort. So there's a lot of hits that Omnizort can kind of really do, and it has a lot of like unique game plans available to you. Then, end of your turn triggers, your level 5 searcher that you had deleted off the first turn now deletes the Omnizort that is spent, and you place a new Dark Masters in the back. Now you're kind of able to cheat out an extra body that turn, get a little bit extra value, set up your trash for next turn, incentivize your opponent not to put your level 5 back into trash, potentially threaten an ace play, and you now have a level 6 back in raising. Very, very powerful. The fact that it can also target your aces, I think, is bonkers. It's insane being able to cheat out a Vikemon and get its effect on the field for essentially free, just a 6-cost Evo. Get a level 7, a level 5, and a level 6 is really good. Its one attacking effect is a bit more niche. You know, when attacking, you may return one level 6 card in this Digimon's sources to its owner's hand, and then delete one of your opponent's unspended Digimon with a play cost of 12 or less. It comes up every once in a while, but overarchingly, even if it didn't have that effect, you would still play this card at 4. I've considered my dog's going wild downstairs. I've considered maybe playing this card at 4 is unwarranted. However, games where you see this card, you get so much card advantage that games where you don't see it feel really lackluster. So playing at anything less than 4 scares me, but because the deck list has become so tight, there's definitely an argument to cut it down to 3. I would never cut it down below 3, but even then, it becomes very weird. Again, deck building is the hardest thing about this deck, and so I'm trying really hard to make sure that whenever you listen to this and I impart, hey, this card's really good, I want you guys to think, yes, this card is really good, but is it something that I need 4 copies of in the current metagame? Maybe I can cut it down to 3 and still see the same amount of success while being a little bit more consistent in matchups that I need. At least that's the idea. So, on to the level 5 techs, just starting off with a couple of them. Keep in mind, again, APOC. APOC places a level 6 or lower card and activates their on-play effect, so a lot of our level 5 utility cards can actually end up benefiting us again through Apocalypse. So the first ones are Wisemon and Edamon. Wisemon is a purple-black 6-cost searcher. On play, look at top 3 cards of your deck, add a purple or black card among them to your hand, and then bottom deck the rest, or place them back on top in any order. And it has the blocker Inherit. So similar to Metal Sea, you can just kind of place this guy underneath if you don't have Metal Sea Digimon in trash when you play out the Apocalypse to get a blocker Inherit, which is really good, as well as the on-play effect allows you to kind of stack the top cards of your deck. It allows you to, in a way, search for cards that you normally wouldn't be able to search for in this list, being like Shotos or your options or your other tamers or even your level 5 searchers. Very consistently, you will have a moment where it's like, man, if I had a Dark Masters level 5 searcher right now, I would be in a great spot. But because I don't, I'm kind of dirtling and it feels like I'm not doing a lot. And that's usually true. Having the difference between having like 1 searcher and 0 is astronomical in this list, and it quite literally opens up the game entirely for you. So being able to find ways to consistently find those is really good. I'm currently not playing any because I simply have faith in our Lord and Savior, Apocalypse. I know that he won't let me down and let me brick, and so far in the list, I've only bricked once in like 30 games, which was good. Edamon is a card that I ended up cutting very, very recently, and I understand it's an insane card. It's a black yellow taunter with legs, just on play when digivolving. Give one of your opponent's Digimon minus 3k DP and start of their main phase. It has to attack until the end of their turn. It essentially guarantees an ace play as well as is pseudo removal in a way, depending on what your board looks like between like Shoto blockers and like Edamon ace plays and stuff like that. However, very rarely these days your opponents whose decks you are already having issues against allow you to just Edamon them. Takamikazuchi very rarely leaves cards out. Gallant X will delete the Edamon before you really get the chance to do anything, unfortunately. A lot of the time, your opponent with like Ancient Guru, Purple Hybrid, or Ancient Greymon, like all of them very rarely leave cards out for you to Edamon. Our worst matchups, I think, that this card actually has utility in is against like Mirage or Galaxy or like Imperial. However, even against those decks, they have a lot of ways they can kind of play around Eda. And depending on what they're on, it just doesn't feel as backbreaking as it used to, if that makes any sense. And there's definitely a moment where the metagame can for sure shift and this card becomes insane again. I just think that right now I prefer a more consistent time over a Edamon time. Other level 5s that we're currently playing, let me go ahead and bring out the thing. Starting off, we can like potentially play the other 2 searchers, though these ones aren't black or purple, meaning that they have a lot less synergies, not only with the aces that we play, but also with the Omni Zort, which I think is really impactful. Give me a second, I can drink. As well as Mephistomon. Mephistomon is really useful because of the fact that it's on deletion. If deleted by an effect, you may play 1 Golfmon or 1 level 6 Dark Master's trait Digimon card from your hand or trash without paying the cost. In certain matchups, it's very, I think, mandatory that you have a way to deal with your opponent deleting your stuff. And because a lot of the times your opponents have to delete your stuff because their effects are mandatory, being able to cheat out a Dark Masters from trash, and then, you know, on the crackback, that Dark Master deletes itself, you play 1 out from hand, and then you Digivolve into a Zord, you get the Mephistomon back, essentially saying, okay, next turn you're going to have to delete this guy again, and then I'm going to get that Dark Masters out, and then it's going to be either a Metal Seed bouncing a level 5, Pie popping unsuspended, against like against Demon Lords, you know, they swing with the Agudamon, you have a Mephisto out, you can play out the Puppetmon from trash, and it bottom decks the Agudo, so even though they get like the when attacking delete a bunch of stuff effect, you still bottom deck the Agudo and need to survive the turn, no matter what, which feels good. Or even Machine to just Digivolve to something. All of those feel really good. You can also play around a little bit with the Inheritable, though that very rarely comes up. With Golfmon, though, it may. We'll see depending on how things go. Again, I haven't really tested too much with the Golfmon. I'll just purely speak a little bit about it when we get there, about like the theoretical stuff that could kind of happen. Something to keep in mind is that if this card is DP reduced, it actually doesn't work. It has to be deleted by effect, and DP reduction counts as deleted by game mechanics, which is a very notable difference and a very devastating difference as well. I understand the idea is like you're supposed to pop it with one of your other level 5 searchers and then get out an extra Dark Master. However, against things like Takamikazuchi, Gallon X, or other decks that like really focus on DP reduction, like maybe even Numemon, they can kind of just cheat this on deletion and not be punished for it, and it's very devastating, unfortunately. And then finally, not finally, we got a lot more actually. We'll do Male Tyrannomon because I think it's the worst card of the 2, but the more consistent one. This is Male Tyrannomon from EX8. It is the on play when Digivolving, you can spend 1 Digimon. Then if this Digimon is suspended, Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and then until the end of your opponent's turn, their effects can't return this Digimon to hand or deck or affected with these Digivolve cards. It's very good against decks like Mirage and Galaxy Blue Toolbox. However, it's only good against those decks. Every other deck that you'll play against that, you know, realistically at least, no one's really de-digivolving right now. And even if they are, you don't really care too much about it. It's just not great. But it is mandatory. You have to find at least a copy of this guy against Mirage in order to have a good time, unless they like break. Though I ended up losing a game against Galaxy Toolbox because of Hexablow. I played this guy out for 7. I attempted to suspend him, but because of Hexablow's effect to prevent Digimon from suspending with less sources, I couldn't get the protection, and he ended up being useless. So in those scenarios as well, even against the decks that are supposed to be very useful against, quite literally is a 7-cost vanilla, unfortunately. Which is why the better version of the card, Rapidmon, is the one that I'm currently playing. On play when Digivolving, Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, which is immediate value comparatively to the Metal Tyranno. Then, if you have a Green Tamer, until the end of your opponent's turn, your opponent can't delete this Digimon or return it to hand or deck. However, again, noticeably, it can still be DP reduced, which means that cards like Gallon X can beat you, which is something that I ended up finding out firsthand. I feel very comfortable by playing a Rapidmon. I ended up digivolving their Gallon X with this effect, and then I felt safe. I assumed they were going to swing in with their Gallantmon. They would attempt to delete it. They obviously couldn't. They'd get the plus 3 KTP and then blocker, and then I'd be able to do an ace play. However, I did forget that Gallant X has a when digivolving effect to give minus 4k, and then a when attacking effect to give minus 4k. So that's what they ended up doing, and they ended up taking the game off of that, which is something that I forgot. However, even in matchups, again, where this card should be seeing some good utility, your opponents still have a lot of ways to kind of play around your effects here, which feel really bad, unfortunately. Another really bad thing is that it requires a green tamer in play, and because we're only playing one set of green tamers, being Shoto, there are certain situations where this card is just a 7 cost Digivolve 1 level 5, and that is not great, especially in the decks where you need this guy, such as Mirage, for example. Which is why I am playing Mamemon. Mamemon is a on play when Digivolving, reveal the top 5 cards of your opponent's of your deck. Then you play one tamer card from among them with a play cost of 4 or less without paying a cost, then place the rest on top or bottom of your deck in any order. I think this is the best level 5 that I play outside of the Dark Master stuff. It's absolutely awful. I hate it so much, but also whenever I play it, I get that little rush of dopamine as I gamble a little bit, and I know for a fact I'm going to hit off the top every time I have to hit, and when you don't hit, you want to cry a little bit, but that's okay. You wanna know why? Because you can choose the way you put your cards back. If it couldn't do that, this card would be completely unplayable. And I would completely scrap the Rapid, the Wame, and the way the deck currently goes, and I would adjust into a completely different style, maybe even going back to like an Omnimon variant. However, with the Mamemon being able to place it back on top, it means that if Mamemon is your turn 1 play, you hatch, play out Mamemon for 7, put your opponent 7. If you hit, fantastic. If you hit literally any of your tamers, you're super happy. If you hit one of the ties, memory setter, beautiful, good. If you hit one of the Shotos, good, you got blocker. You have blocker mother next turn, fantastic. If you hit one of the analogs, you can choose to either place these remaining 4 cards back on top, and then your analog can search of the 3 that you choose it to search, or put them on bottom if you don't want your analog to like search those 3, because you're like, these 3 are actually not very useful for me, and I'm trying to find, say, a level 5 searcher. And instead your analog will look at the next 3. However, let's assume you just don't hit. Even if you don't hit, you can still place these on back, on top, or bottom in any order. Meaning, oh, there's a, I guess like a bad example would be like a Shoto, but like the idea is like maybe there's 2 Shotos on top, and you want the second Shoto as well, because you really need 2 Shotos in this matchup. Or you need like an extra tamer in this matchup, etc., etc. Boom, you can place it on top. You really need a searcher awfully badly. Boom, you can just place it back on top. You want the option card, because your opponent is going to go very big very quickly, and you want to be able to make use of Chaosmon, the Ultimate Chaosmon in your hand as fast as possible. Boom, place the option on top, and you will draw that really quickly. There are weird scenarios where, like, against hybrid, you kind of have to play around it a little bit and be like, okay, well, I actually want this card, so I need to place it like 3rd down, like 4th down, or even 5th down, depending on how quickly you think they're going to end up milling you. But overall, because you can stack your deck as you want, it feels decent. I think these are the utility level 5s that I'm currently playing. But again, I'm just imparting wisdom onto you guys. If you guys find any good level 5s, I'm always fiending for more level 5s to play. I've limited myself purely to the black and purple ends of level 5s. However, there's definitely, I'm sure, good level 5s outside of those ends that arguably we could play. I just really try to get as much value out of my Zord as possible, and that may be a flawed mindset. So keep that in mind. So now, on to aces, and like kind of like the reasoning behind them, in a way. So, let me go ahead and just, there's one more ace that I forgot to add, so let me just grab that bitch real quick. Alright, there we go. Here's all the aces that you can theoretically play in the list, I think, that make some sense. We'll go from worst to best. Starting off with the Azulongmon. I think this one is probably the worst. However, of the 4 deity the 4 sovereign quad, I call them a trio for some reason, it has the best deletion. Just delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest level. However, its on play when they're is very weak for us. Just return one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon to hand, then unspend one of your Digimon with Deva or Dragons or for Sovereign's trait. Not super useful. We don't really care for it. And it only works with Edamon. So I personally don't play this card. Next up, it's probably Ebenwu. On play when Digivolving. For each of your Digimon with the Deva before Sovereign's trait, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then during your opponent's next unsuspend phase, all of your Digimon can't unsuspend. Again, really good in the sense of like, oh, your opponent just swung out, now you can just Ebenwu on them, and you kind of just set up for like a turn stunning their board in a way. Feels really good. Then on deletion, delete one of your opponent's suspended Digimon. Again, your opponent swings in, you know, maybe you get like a Blastoise effect going and stun something, and then your guy gets deleted, and then you delete the guy that just deleted you. Really good. If it worked that way. Unfortunately, most of the time, like I said, your opponent doesn't leave guys on the field for you to kind of interact with in that same way. A lot of decks kind of just unsuspend themselves for fun. It's not great. And it also doesn't interact with Tamers, which feels even worse. So I ended up not playing this guy. Next is Hercules Kabuterimon, I think. It is similar to Metal Garurumon in a way, because you can spin up to 3 of your opponent's Digimon, then for each of your opponent's Digimon, this effect suspended gain 1 memory. If your opponent has 3 Digimon on field, you can kind of just play this guy out for 3, and if we had a good level 7 to make use of it with, like maybe Quartz, I can see it like seeing some play. However, in this list, as it is currently, I just don't think it's very valuable to us. And then all turns once per turn, when this Digimon suspends until the end of your opponent's turn, one of your Digimon gains piercing and plus 3k DP. Just a nice utility effect. I would give this guy like a solid like 6 out of 10. It's like okay. I was even leaning a little bit to the side of good. I can definitely see a archetype where this is like very useful at some point, but just at this current moment in time, it's not super useful to us, unfortunately. Up next, probably the Metal Seedramon. I'm very unimpressed with this card. It's very lackluster to me. On play, when Digivolving, Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, then you return one of their play cost 7 or lower Digimon to the bottom of the deck. It's hard removal, which is nice. However, I look at this card and I just go, oh, this is just a worse Vikemon. And because aces are already so rough for us to get off consistently right now, that I've cut down to 5 aces in the list total, I think that this guy just doesn't meet the cut. And then while you have 1 or more memory, none of your opponent's Digimon can suspend. Again, we don't really care too much about blockers and the like, because we're usually, if we're going as a heavy blocker-centric deck, we'll probably just end up trying to mill them out instead. Valkyremon is crazy. I think this is probably one of the best aces you can play. However, you can only play with the Etemon. And because we're not playing the Etemon, obviously, we're not going to be playing Valkyrie Ace. And even with the Etemon, there's an argument to not play the Valkyrie Ace either. However, on play when Digivolving, minus 5k to the board. Fantastic. Good. Love it. Great on your turn sometimes. Great on your opponent's turn a lot of the times. And then all turns, when a card is removed from the security stack, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 8k or less EP. If this effect didn't delete something, gain security attack +1. There was a version of the list where I played a lot more Omnimons, and so I would go Valkyrie Ace my opponent's turn, give them minus 5k. They would check. I wouldn't delete something because they were still too big. I get security attack +1. Swing in the Valkyrie Ace on my turn, do 3 checks, go into Blitz Omni, do another 3 checks because this Digimon gets plus security attack. So the security attack stays up, and then with Blitz Omni you unspend and swing again. Fantastic. Removes all of their security for pretty cheap. But if you're in that position, it still feels a little scary. And even if, let's say you delete Valkyrie Ace, you now have security attack +1 on your turn because you swing, there's nothing to delete. Then you unsuspend, swing again with Blitz Omni as 4 checks, which feels good. I think it would be better suited in a Omnimon focused variant. I think in the current variant with like Zwart and stuff that I'm really leaning into, it's less useful, unfortunately. Grand Kuwagamon Ace. A really good card. Has the on-play suspend 2 of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Cards that this effect suspended can't unsuspend during their opponent's next unsuspend phase. Not as useful, again, as you'd think. And then delete one of their suspended Tamers. Very useful. super useful. A lot of times this card is the one that I kind of just hard play out. Against Imperial, they play out their 4-cost Tamer. I play out my 7-cost Grand Kuwagamon, and I go good trade. Against any hybrid list, I just pop a Tamer as quickly as I can, as early as I can, as much as I can, because again, I can play this guy out as well with the Zwart, which feels great. A lot of Tamer hate. And then when this Digimon becomes suspended, give one of your Digimon security attack +1. This actually synergizes really well with Mega Gargo Ace, making it a quad checker. So this card, and I have Mega Gargo on field, does 5 checks total. Really nice. I'm currently not playing it because, one, I don't think Imperial is very good in the current meta right now. I think people are playing it a lot less. And whether that's just from like a fatigue of like, oh, we've been playing this deck for so long, or because it's actually just worse than certain other lists right now. I don't know. And even though there's quite heavy Tamer-centric decks, I just don't think it's good enough for me right now to justify playing it. Followed by Metal Garurumon Ace. I pendulum a lot on this card. I swing from like, wow, this card is disgusting, crazy, to wow, this card's the worst card in the deck. I have to send it to hell immediately. It's the first ace alongside the War Greymon, and has only a Wind Dwelling effect. By trashing up to 3 cards in your hand, gain 1 memory for each card trash. Really good to kind of cheat around like unaffected Dunguses like Magnet X, just stealing turn from them. And then when attacking, you may trash 1 card in your hand, delete one of your opponent's lowest level. Again, really good for like getting rid of like floodgates and stuff. However, the main reason that you would play this card is because it is a free Evo on top of a purple level 5 that your opponent may just leave up, because it is typically the one that they're least afraid of. They usually go for the black level 5s first, because I think the black aces are a bit more impactful than purple. So they leave it up, you go Metal Room on the next turn, and then you can go straight into a Zort or another powerful level 7, which feels pretty good. It also lets you set up your trash by putting a couple extra level 5s or aces in there that you want to be playing off with the Zort, which also feel really good. Next up is probably in the weakest order is Mega Gargo Ace. It's only when Digivolving. It has blocker reboot. Suspend 2 of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers, then 2 of the Digimon or Tamers can't unsuspend or Digivolve until the end of their next turn. Really good. Really good. Really good. And then when Digivolving, end of attack, you may unsuspend this Digimon, a double checker, which is fine. The main reason you play obviously is for the Wind Digivolving effect. However, because I think the aces need to be more proactive than reactive right now in the current meta game that I have experienced, I'm ending up cutting this guy even though he's still really good. Your opponent is very easily, if they're on a tier 1 deck, able to play around this card. And you can force it to happen like an Edamon, but again, we're not playing with Edamon, so that's why I think this card is cuttable. On to Shadow Serafi, a very proactive ace, just on play Digivolve 3, and then has blocker for some defensive utility, and then has the alternate effect when an attack target is changed, one of your opponents Digimon get minus 5k DP for the turn. If you ace into this, it's backbreaking. If you just play it out, it can still be at least a nice removal tool, and then a utility piece while on the field. Though it is the one that I play out the least for just playing things out, unless I'm a little bit more desperate. There are a lot better cards that we can just play out that doesn't include Shadow Serafi Ace. Though, depending on what the board state is, I could also see myself playing it out with the Omnimon Zort a couple times, just because of the fact that it has blocker. And having blocker sometimes is game determinative for us. Followed by Vikemon. This is probably the best ace and arguably top 5 card in the deck. So for those of you that don't know what it does, 7 play cost, 12k DP. On play, when Digivolving, Digivolve 2 one of your opponent's Digimon, then none of their Digimon, 1 or fewer sources, can suspend till the end of their turn. When attacking, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 1 or fewer Digivolution cards. So, Digivolve 2, really nice soft removal, into a Floodgate effect. So this Floodgate effect is similar to Venus's minus security to your opponent's field. This just applies this effect to the field, so even if your opponent ends up outing Vikemon, this is something that you really need to remember. Okay, I've forgotten it a lot. I've forgotten this effect a lot. It's very important to remember, because it's very crucial in a lot of different matchups. From Demon Lords, it stops your opponent's Gudamon from swinging if they use the gate. To Purple Hybrids, or Hybrids in general, it stops them from swinging when they just Evo. That means they have the Evo on top of their guy twice. Ukamon can't swing. A lot of rookies can't swing unless your opponent Digivolves on top of them twice, unless they have the egg underneath them. Your opponent can't alliance with Digimon because they can't suspend, period. So no alliance checking. It's very important to remember this. This card by itself changes the dynamic of every matchup that you play against birds. If they're not playing the 3-cost Tamer that gives the on deletion effect, play Beelmon out. If they're not playing that one, their Gerudo X's cannot go do the Sora loop where they bounce back Sora to hand, play out Gerudo Ace, go into Gerudo Ace, play out Sora, Gerudo X, grab back Gerudo X or Gerudo Ace or whatever you need from trash, bounce back Sora, Gerudo Ace, Gerudo X. They can't swing. They have to go into their level 6 first. Against the 3-cost Tamer, though, they can get the extra source with the Beelmon underneath, which means that you have to play it a little bit differently. Against Pyuldramon, you Digivolve something really good, get going around petition. Against, oh god, there's something else. Angels, it's really nice because they can't suspend. There's just so many different ways that this singular effect changes things. Oh, against Takamikazuchi, if you have the Memory Starter tie out, they cannot swing in with the Takamikazuchi even if they're playing the Darugamon list if you have the Vikemon up and a Shoto and a Memory Starter tie out, because they can't alliance to get big enough to check over your Mother D-Reaper. Meaning that if they do swing, you will trade with them for your Mother for their Takamikazuchi, which is usually a plus trade for you because it buys you that extra turn. Really, really important to keep in mind there. There are so many ways that Vikemon kind of interacts with the game state that it's hard to really put into words how important he is. Just in general. There are certain matchups where he doesn't do anything, unfortunately, but there are enough matchups where he is game determinative that I have put him back up to 3. Non-ace level 6s. So unfortunately, I've tested a lot of these to try and figure out like what I could do out there. Try and like at least eke out a little bit extra value out of like the level 5s that my opponent ends up leaving on board. But they end up being too slow most of the time, especially because your opponent's very good at not leaving any level 5s remaining on board. I've had some success with a couple of them though. So Leviamon and its X counterpart, being able to just like get those in trash really early, and then just like hard play Levia and say, okay, go. And if your opponent ends up playing into that, you get like the Leviamon X effect. Levia X also giving you like the ability to like pop tamers and stuff is really nice. Leviamon just being something that you can just play out and get immediate value from it is also really good. Shadow Serafi has some utility. I think it's really good if you can get it on field, like crazy if you get it on field, but getting it on field is like the really hard part because again, it's really hard to keep you guys alive. I've tested out each of the Dynamons and they're really good in the mirror. And unfortunately, they're not very good in most other lists. Most other players don't really care about 6k DP thresholds or play effects in like very niche scenarios, or even the Dynamon not having Fortitude active is devastating. The other level 6, I'll go ahead and pull it up right now, that I actually have just added to the list and I am testing now, is actually one that I probably should have tested a lot sooner, but I wrote it off very early on. It's Golfmon. 12 cost play, 11k DP, 3 cost Evo on top of a purple level 5, or Evo on top of any Dark Masters level 5 for 3. By placing, on play when Digivolving, by placing one level 5 card with Dark Masters in its text from your hand or trash, as spawns into Evolution card, to leave one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. All completely meh. Nothing crazy there. But it has the one attacking effect, return up to 7 cards from your opponent's trash to the bottom of the deck, unspin this Digimon. This actually has a little bit of niche utility that I like a lot. Being able to interact with your opponent's graveyard, being able to bottom deck like Velgers, Takamikazuchis, Kazuchis, AGs, things like that. I can definitely see a reason that it's good. And a friend of mine who plays the deck a lot as well vouched for it, said it comes up enough. And so I said, you know what, I'll test it out and I'll see, and I'll let you guys know how I feel about it. But I mean, understanding that its potential graveyard hate, it may be useful. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, let me take a drink. My man just walked into the room. This guy. I know I said there's no good non-ace level 6s. I fucking lied to you. Holy. Medieval is crazy in this list. Medieval's disgusting in this list. Medieval's at 3. I want to put Medieval at 4. I want to see 5 Medievals in my hand opening. I want to see 6 Medievals in my deck. I want to see 18 Medievals in my deck, and I'll play one every single turn for 11. I won't even suspend nothing. I'll just play out 11 cost Medieval every turn. I don't even care. I'm gonna lose the game? Maybe. Maybe not. You got like 3 turns to kill me. I'm doing like 22 to 26k alliance checks every single turn. Gross. Gross. Gross, disgusting, gross card. Okay. Context. 11 play cost, 11k DP. When you would play it, you can spend 2 Digimon, reduce the play cost by 4, making it a 7 play cost. Alliance, Vortex. Alliance, you know, get the extra check and DP of a Digimon by suspending it whenever you attack with this guy. Vortex, end of your turn, even if it was just played this turn, it can attack one of your opponent's suspended Digimon. When Digivolving, You may suspend one Digimon card. Then you may delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 8k or less DP. For each other suspended Digimon, add 3k DP to this DP's deletion effects maximum. Assuming you suspend something, you play it out, then you can suspend something else, be it on your side or their side. You can delete up to 17k DP immediately. So 17k DP deletion, play out a 11k Digimon with bonuses for 7 memory. Already really gross. However, it's better because all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon, I'm so sorry, I just nerfed this card in my head. When Digimon are played, period, full stop, you may activate one of this Digimon's when Digivolving effects. Not played by effect, not when Digimon are played on your side of the field, not when Digimon are played on your opponent's side of the field, because that would still be really good. When Digimon are played, period, once per turn, just fucking kill something, dude. Not only that, suspend something and then kill something. Meaning that if you do suspend something and nothing else is suspended right now, you're at minimum deleting something with 11k DP. Minimum. A little bit above that, a little bit cherry on top, you can suspend something else and then delete the thing that's still unsuspended, stopping your opponent from getting aggression. 7 memory. Cross heart decks, eat your heart out. Blue flare, hard matchup, no more. I ended up tying a blue flare player in my tournament yesterday. Eagle X, shout out to Eagle X. Go play in Eagle X, really good competitive community. It was a 42-person locals, online locals. We get people who are insanely good at the game there consistently, which is why I feel confident talking about this list because I got 8th place with this yesterday. I lost a game, and then I tied the blue flare player, and then I won the remaining 3 games that I played. 5-year on local. And then, obviously, Monday competitiveness isn't your style. We also have, Thursdays a bit more casual. Though you will still see me rocking up with this list, so, don't hate me. I won the game because I had 2 medieval Gallimons out. And I would have won had I remembered that I had done the Bikemon effect. Because my opponent bottom decks a level 5 that prevented me from acing them. I ace into Paladin mode on top of my Bikemon, stripping their sources. They wouldn't have been able to suspend. But I was still probably going to die anyways if it weren't for the double medieval Gallant. Because they had 6 memory. They play out a blue flare Metal Greymon, give it rush, medieval Gallant. I could either pop that, but because there were so many suspended Digimon on board, I just ended up popping the Paladin Mon instead. Unsuspending everything, and I would have won from that position. But it's totally fine. Just talking about that position as a whole, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. I'm sorry to say, but it's disgusting. It's super gross what this card is able to do. It's quite literally a custom card. And for the understanding of time, I'm not going to keep yapping about it, but just know that this is a 2 of minimum. I like it at 3. I kind of want it at 4. It's so expensive. I would not play this deck without at least 2 copies of this, though. And I know that hurts your wallet. The rest of this deck is pretty cheap. The rest of this deck is on lower end. This part is the really expensive part, unfortunately. I ended up buying my copies immediately because I knew how good it was for 40. And now they're very overpriced. And by overpriced, I mean reasonably priced for what the card does, but it's unfortunate. The level 7 Paladin loot. So it gets blocker from the Inherit from Metal Sea. It's also able to blast on top of Metal Sea or Puppet, though typically you'll be doing on Metal Sea. It steals memory pretty consistently in our list, though that also means anti-paladins can also get memory pretty consistently, because our trash will almost always have a white level 7, unfortunately. A great way to kind of just reset deck, and typically when you're doing it, you have 3 cards left in deck anyways, to 10 cards left in deck, so you'll be able to stack it as you want. It gives you a lot of kill potential depending on what your opponent, his board state looks like. And then I like it at 2. I really like it at 2. Just because there's something about my brain and the brainworms in there that just go, ooh, wait, if we Paladin a Paladin, we can Paladin the Paladin next time. We go into Paladin, and then we can Paladin again, and we'll be able to go forever, and our opponent will lose. Most games don't make it that far. Most games, surprisingly enough, don't make it that far. Usually, you're decking your opponent out, or you're killing them, or you're dead before you're able to play the second paladin that you just paladin backed into your deck. So the main thing that you have to keep in mind is in certain matchups, you have to find this card very quickly, or you have to change the way you're playing. Because, like, against Purple Hybrid, for example, because of the amount of bodies and tamers that we kind of just keep on field, they're usually milling you for like 4 or 5 cards at a time. Really gross, mind you. And not having a paladin as a way of like giving you like a 25 to 30 card buffer in your deck will usually cost you the game, which is why I liked it too. But because the deck space is currently so tight, the only card I could imagine cutting for it right now is maybe a Golfmon. But even then, I want to give Golfmon a shot. Decks. I'm currently playing it at 1 just because it's a really good catch-up mechanic. Very similar to like Medieval Gallant in that sense, but very good for like the wider boards. You'll give your opponent so much memory, but because you're so sticky and hard to kill, a lot of times they'll pass back with like 6 to like 10 cards on board, be it Tamers and like Digimon, and Death X is just a nice way to just deal with a portion of them immediately, which is good. And it provides like a pressure to your opponent's mental, because understanding that they have to either out this guy or get a Digimon deleted every single turn, I think really starts stacking up that like mental chip against them, which is something to kind of keep in mind. That's why I'm playing it at 1. Again, searchable, so that's why I feel comfortable playing this card at 1. Quartz, Tamer interaction, really nice. Stun, just for a lot of different kinds of ways your opponent can do. Lethal pressure, because your board will be very wide. This also spends your mothers, by the way, so you will be able to get the bonus effects. Of course, even easier, and then obviously Medieval, being green-red, cheating it out for 7, and then going to Quartz in the next turn feels really good. I think it's bad. It's bad. Oh, I hate saying it's bad, but it's bad, guys. It's bad. It's not good. The card's so close to being good, but there's so many decks in the game right now that just don't care. They don't care because their stuff isn't on board. So you're not locking them out of the game. You're just... you're not even buying time. Taka Mikazuchi, they promote Luga, they place an AG underneath. If they don't have an AG, they just put one of the ones that's suspended underneath, and then boom, it's not suspended anymore, and they don't care. And then they do the whole shebang, and they don't care. Against Imperial, okay, you suspended their rookies, or like their level 5s. Great, next turn, they play out the rookies from hand using the Tamer effect. Sure, they aren't getting the extra memory, but they're still getting the rookies out. And then they go into level 4s, and then they DNA into level 5, and let's say they had a suspended level 4 on board. Okay, we DNA into level 5, and now it's not suspended anymore. It's even one less body, and we're also able to attack you with it, and... I want this card to be good so bad, guys. I do. I just don't think it just needs the right moment to shine. It just needs the right moment to shine. Speaking of things that need to shine, Gallant Crimson. Safety, pressure, Medieval. Same thing for Quartz. You know, Medieval Mon being able to just threaten this as an ace. One of the best ways your opponent has to remove it, Medieval, is the fact it's only 11k DP, so it's pretty easy to get over for, I think, a lot of decks, being 12k DP or higher. Gallant Crimson essentially insulates you from that. Provides pressure, just even playing it out, deleting 15k DP worth of Digimon, and then just threatening like some trashing of your opponent's security. It requires like an immediate answer. And then the safety aspect obviously being like that ace that can like protect you with like that Medieval Gallant on board. However, unfortunately, again, I think this falls into the same camp as like the Paladin mode, where it's like I really want to run a copy of this, just because there are certain scenarios where it definitely does come up. However, your opponent wants to get rid of your Medieval already, so they're gonna get rid of it, and if they're gonna try and get rid of it as safely as possible, which means they're gonna try and get rid of it by like effects, and Crimson mode doesn't help there. It also doesn't protect itself, and then it overflows for 5. So there's a lot of yikes. I think if I were to cut Golf, I would probably put in a Crimson mode, but just for the utility of it. The Omni Bozos. So obviously, the list I'm playing plays none of these guys right now. However, there are definitely variants of the list that can play these guys right now. These guys are a more proactive game plan. I'm a lot more reactionary as a player. I really love control. This is a lot more reminiscent of Mega Zoo with these Omnimons. They threaten lethal very quickly if they're like left unchecked. They have very easy access to the blocker inherit with the metal C. They have access to blitz for like double checks with the Omnimon. They have access to a very strong tamer, being the white tie and mat, that gives +2 memory if you have a level 6 or higher Digimon, and gives all of your Omnimon security attack +1. Like 2 of those tamer on field essentially closes out the game in 2 turns. It's really gross, and you're able to kind of cheat out a lot of these Omnimons really quickly as well, because you also have access to Omnizort. Omnizort, you go into Alter B for 2, or you go into Merciful for 3. It's really good. You can even go into Alter S. The Alter S, I think, is probably the worst of the Omnimon variants that you can play right now. However, it's alright enough. And with the new Omni X that's coming out and the other Omni X's available to you, there's definitely like a lot of potential stuff that you can do, which is nice. Omnimon's Word Defeat. Tamer Hate for 3. Really good. Proactive on Dark Masters. Again, it converts your Dark Masters into something useful for you after you get your value out of them. It's a security bomb, quote unquote. Sometimes it's a bomb for your opponent where it's just like, oh shit, that's a 13k DP level 7 that I can't delete, so I gotta find some other way to get rid of it. Otherwise, it's just kind of chipping at my security, which is good. Sometimes it's a bomb for you because your opponent paladins you, and whenever your opponent paladins you, you're always gonna have a Zord defeat in your security, and it's always gonna be the check they need to kill you. Every time. It's happened to me. Of the 3 games that my opponent has paladin me while I have Zord defeat in my deck, it has been in my security all 3 games. And it has been the reason that I lost all 3 games. Maybe not the reason, but it definitely didn't help. Definitely didn't help. But it also has a really unique interaction with some of our harder matchups. Obviously, like, it gets deleted by Gallant X, you pop the Gallant X before they can give you memory. It gets deleted by Takamikazuchi, you delete the Takamikazuchi. Really unique there. However, your opponent is kind of able to like interact really weirdly because we play Mother Shoto. They can just kind of target the Mother Shoto with the minus DP stuff and then just not delete your guy and be completely okay with it. And it feels bad. I'm not gonna lie, it feels pretty bad. So you have to play like a weird game of like, well, this guy has blocker now, so you have to target it with the guy, and it's like, okay, we will, I guess. And it just feels meh. It feels meh. Yeah, meh. I don't play any copies of it right now. I think it's fine. I just don't think it's good enough. Ultimate Chaos and his little bros, Chaos and Chaos. Great kill potential. Unless you're doing like turn 2, you're pretty often getting that 4 checks into your opponent's security, which is great. Piercing, super good. Very hard to remove in partition. Great recursion as well with that partition effect. Great removal, being bomb decking, and the other 2 suck ass. I'm not even gonna bother explaining the other 2. Just know that they suck ass. Take my word for it, they suck ass. Ultimate Chaosmon though. When Digivolving, if DNA Digivolving, you may place up to 2 level 6 cards from your trash to Digimon's bottom Digivolution cards. Then, for each of the Digimon's level 6 Digivolution cards, return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. It's a 7-cost Evo on top of a purple, black, green, or yellow. Or you can DNA with a yellow or black level 6 and a green or purple level 6 for a cost of 0. And then partition for a yellow or black level 6 and a green or purple level 6. Really good. Really hard for your opponents to remove. They gotta remove it. It just 4 checks on board by itself. You can go into it for 4 from 1 level 6 because we're always hitting the color requirement in this list almost consistently. And even if we aren't, your opponent may just have level 6 on board. Bottom decking up to 4 guys is gross, nasty. Even just sometimes going into him for 7 on top of one of your Dark Masters, just turning them into a removal spell isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm not too happy about it, mind you, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Then being able to place a Metal Seedramon underneath it for blocker inherit is also really good. Typically, you're getting like Machine Dramon, Metal Sea, Medieval, and then something else. Meaning that if your opponent removes it by effect, you get that Medieval and then something else out. Like maybe a machine, maybe something else, and that's super good. You have blocker, meaning that's 16k DP blocker, really good. I didn't play this at all when Imperial was around because this card sucks against Imperial. Very rarely are you able to actually get 4 memory. Sometimes you are, and if you are, you get that 4 checks in and you're pretty happy about it. But If you aren't, and you just go into this guy and you pass turn, they're just going to source strip you, and usually they'll strip a couple aces, and then this guy will do nothing for the remainder of the game, and that's really sad and not very useful. However, against Takamikazuchi, you know, they pop it with my 16k. Against Gallant, you know, they pop it. Against Mirage, they bounce it. A lot of these things, against Ancient Garurumon, they bounce it, they pop it, whatever they try to do that isn't beating this guy over by battle, you're really, really happy with pretty consistently. And even some decks that do try to delete you by battle, like you can just place a Piedmon underneath for retaliation. So, Tamers, no showed up. No text this time again. Let me go ahead and pull out the Tamers real quick. So I'll start with the good and the bad. All right, we'll move our way down from best to worst. So Analog Youth is a really good searcher. So why we play it at 3. It sets up our trash pretty decently, and then it also converts a little bit of that value from the Omnivore back again into our favor, giving us a little bit more value, allowing us to delete the Omnivore and then get recoup a little bit of like the cost. At 4 Analog Use on board, obviously the Omnivore only essentially costs 2 because it's one that we're going to typically end up deleting with the level 5 searches that we play out, which is really good because that usually allows us to keep turn, though that's a bit more of a pipe dream. It also has the weird interaction that it allows you to expedite your mother hatches if you have nothing in the back currently. Like, let's say you just like promoted out and then you didn't have like a Dark Master's place in the back, or you didn't have a way to get like a searcher out, and your opponent ends up deleting, or you end up deleting a level 5 or a level 6 with sources. Being able to cheat out an extra mother in certain matchups is pretty good. Followed by the 4-cost tie. This guy has a really unique interaction in certain matchups. Most of the time he's just a memory setter that sometimes draws us 1 and makes us a little bit bigger, which is nice. But most of the time, we just want him in the Takamikazuchi matchup for that weird interaction I mentioned earlier. And the reason I bring up the Takamikazuchi matchup right now is just because it's probably one of the harder matchups, so it's the one I've had to think the most about when it comes to like play patterns of like ways that I can kind of like get around it. So Taikamiya, Mother Shoto, and Vikemon is a way to stall out a turn pretty consistently, which feels good. And then 2-cost Taikamiya makes it so that way you get a little bit extra value out of your Shoto blockers or Mother Shoto blockers or other blockers that you have available to you, just making it like a 2-cost double blocker. It's pretty good. It's not bad. I think it's probably fine. Digimon Emperor is a good card depending on the metagame. You know, it can provide you a little bit of draw and cycle, which is something that you really desperately want. Obviously, you have no problem getting cards in hand, but there's some times where you really need certain niche answers that aren't easily searchable for you. And then the memory still can come up. I would say it's not really useful because we have so much memory unless you have 2 or more. At the point that you get 2 or more, 4 memory steal is absolutely backbreaking. Jesus Christ. Save me. Followed by Genai. This one, by the way, the only good 2 is Analog, Taikamiya, the 4-cost one, and then maybe Digimon Emperor, depending on the meta. Everything else seems a little cope. Speaking of cope, Genai, maybe real top 5 card your deck. Add 1 level 3 Digimon card and 1 non-white Tamer card among them to your hand. Turn the rest of the bottom of the deck. So this card was played by me because of the fact that it searched Shoto, which I was very down bad for because it was the Ancient Garurumon meta, and I needed Shoto for Rapid. I desperately needed Shoto for Rapid. But also Takamikazuchi was around, and opponent's turn, when an opponent's level 5 or higher Digimon attacks, by suspending this Tamer, move one of your Digimon from the breeding area to the battle area. So the thought process was, okay, our opponent's going to swing in with Takamikazuchi. When they do, they're going to alliance for X amount. Okay? We can either block that one and not use Genai yet, or we can use Genai and we can promote our Metal Seedramon in the back. When attacking effects have resolved, you go into counter timing. You blast Digivolve into Imperial Dramon Paladin mode, and then you can either trade the Paladin with your opponent, which is like fine, but if you've done 2 checks to your opponent and you let them get 2 swings in, they trash 2, you use like a mother to maybe block or something. On that second swing, they'll trash the second one. They'll be down to 2 cards left in security. You Paladin, you steal 3 memory from them, which should put them outside the range. If they're at 2, it'll put you to 5. They'll gain like 1 to 2 memory back from playing out like an AG from their sources. Then you swing bottom deck the Takamikazuchi, swing bottom deck the level 4, swing for game. Was the idea. It's very cope. Requires your opponent to have no thoughts in their head about what they're going to do. But it was the only answer we had available to us at the time with what cards I was able to play. Super cope, super bad. I would not recommend Genai in this list. I promise I would not recommend Genai in this list. It's very cope. Speaking of cope, we are... Hey, this is you guys can look at these and see, oh, this is the down bad for green tamers. Again, these are cards that I all played because of the fact I was like, these guys are so close to being playable for us, and they also are green, which means Rapid Mon's turned on, which means they can't be bounced, which is the most important thing in the world right now. This guy just gets some memory for like level 5s, and then the second effect doesn't matter to us. This guy gets us like, some memory, again, doesn't really matter for us, and then gives us some draw, which is like nice, sometimes. And then Mimi has like a really niche scenario where it's a memory setter, which is like nice. And then, sometimes we'll have a level 5 or higher green Digimon in play, so we can cheat out a little bit extra mothers, which is really cool. But it also doesn't push out the mother if you hatch that turn because it's not a level 3 or lower. So it's like anti-synergy there. These guys are very cope, but it was back, you guys don't understand, this is back in a time where every deck you face was bouncing. They were bouncing on it, dude. They were bouncing. And there wasn't much you could do other than hope you found Shoto and Rapid in time. And one of the ways you did it was, man, I really just need a green tamer. I need a green tamer real bad. Yeah, but no Shoto. Because here he is. Shoto, my boy. People say they want to pair ban Mother Reaper and Shoto. Why would they do that? What's wrong with them? They're sickos, okay? I look at Mother Shoto and I see a tag team duo. I see entrepreneurs. I see wonderful people working together doing things that no one thought before. Okay, listen. I'm sorry that you guys can't beat over and just kill me. You can't just walk in here and kill me, alright? I'm sorry, I'm trying to defend myself. Sickos, that's what you are if you want a Mother Shoto pair ban, okay? Listen to me. Medieval Gallant and Shoto are meant to be in the same deck together. I'm playing 7 copies of them, alright? I'm only playing 4 mothers. It's not even the synergy that I care about these days. It's just like a little happy accident, alright? Keep that in mind, you freaks. Anyways, Shoto, super important, obviously, in a lot of different matchups. We'll go over that. It's a very understood card, I feel like, by the community standards at this point. But just something to kind of keep in mind is it works really well with Mother and Medieval Gallant. And Medieval Gallant also works very well with Shoto and Mother. For context, the idea is essentially Mother is a body that is 15k DP, but you can't make use of offensively. With Medieval, you can with the effect of Alliance, and you can make use of it offensively immediately, because if you spend 2 Digimon with the Medieval, you pop 1 and then you can attack the other. You can Alliance to make it up to 26k DP, meaning that most Digimon will be beaten over by your Medieval Gallant. I think there's one game where there was a turn where someone got their Gallant X up to 28,000 DP, and every other time it was either 26 or lower, and I was able to pretty consistently just use Medieval as a removal spell. Just boom, pop it immediately with the power of the sun. And there's very little things that they can do to stop it, because it's 26k DP. They can't even Crimson mode you because you're 26k DP at that moment in time, so they attempt to like delete 50k DP or less. There's nothing to delete, they cry. For the aggression standpoint, Shoto gives piercing and blocker. So the play is play out Medieval, end of turn, declare your effects. Trigger Vortex, you suspend your guy, and you say, I'm attacking that Digimon. Before the attack begins, you declare Shoto, you give blocker piercing to the Medieval. The Medieval unsuspends because it's a Vortex Warrior. Now it has Piercing Blocker. You could also suspend the Mother to give an extra 15k DP, meaning that you'll swing in to this body, piercing it, 26k DP, 2 checks from the hand, 7 mana. That's it. And now you have a Floodgate on board that says if they play something out, you could probably pop it as well. Really good. And if it comes back around to your turn, you can do another 2 checks. Very aggressive, very defensive, very good synergy. Fantastic. As for options, I don't play really that many options. I play 2 Mega Digimon Assembly right now. I think any other options kind of make our searches worse, unfortunately. There was a period, obviously, I was like, oh, these Liberator options or like these level 3s could be really useful for finding Shoto. And because of Medieval being in that same category now, maybe even Terramon could be used to find Medieval and Shoto. Very good. But the only option that I think is useful right now is Mega Digimon Assembly because it lets us cheat out a extra level 6 into DNA combo for 4 memory only from hand, and that's really good, in my opinion. And obviously, you want to have one of these in hand in a lot of different matchups, though don't get me wrong, there are a lot of board states and matchups where just doing Ultimate Chaos Pass is garbage, and there's a lot of matchups where you're just like, okay, anyways, I kill you, and there's something that Ultimate Chaos could do, because it's very proactive and not very reactive. Okay. So now, onto the matchups. Holy, we have been yapping for an hour and we're just not getting to the matchups. Kill me. We're going to go over how to play them. Instead of just noting how good Shoto is for certain matchups, we're just going to put a little asterisk near the top of it. I won't mention the asterisk, you guys will just have to look and watch yourself. But it will tell you how good Shoto is. 1 asterisk is like, it's useful, but it's not like super game determinative. 2 is like, it's pretty good, and it has like some utility to like good utility. Then 3 is like it's probably really important to have as a means of like keeping you alive. And then I'll talk about like do we try killing them or do we go for the mill? What are key pieces in like the game plan and like what doesn't work and like what does work, or like what to kind of like watch out for your opponent doing. So Imperial counterplay. Medieval really hurts their tamers. Obviously, they can't play out a guy without it getting popped, so being able to stick like 1 to 2 Medievals in the game will set them back so much memory-wise that there's not much they can do. They have a really hard time getting rid of our level 5s, so acing's actually really good against them. The only way they can get rid of our level 5s is by going into the level 6 that bottom decks everything, or their ace. But their level 6 dragon mode, the anti-ace one, is really good at stopping us from acing. However, I think a lot of them have kind of audible off of it to go for the other structure deck dragon mode that lets them play out the level 4s from their sources. You do have to watch out for partition a lot in this matchup, unfortunately, as well as not just partition, you also have to watch out for their option card, which is really good at defending them and letting them crack back a lot of value for free, because you have to invest memory and cards to try and out their card. And then they just say, okay, you didn't, and now I get a big guy for free, and I also wipe your board, or I try killing you. And that's real rough. So that's something you gotta keep in mind for. I know it's really useful in this matchup, actually. Obviously, ignoring the anti-ace Imperial Dramon Dragon mode. Speaking of, right there, watch out for potential Paladin plays as well. They can win the game very easily because they let you go so wide. They just kind of stun your board over and over and over again until you go wide enough with enough aces that they just kind of go Paladin mode, bottom deck your trash, like get the extra 3 memory back, and they just start swinging, bottom decking all the threatening cards and then your aces, and then kill you. And even if they can't kill you with the Paladin, because they'll get so much memory back from the aces, it's just like, oh, damn, you got 12 memory off of that. That's crazy. It's a very profitable Paladin. And you also really want to keep a extra Shoto or 2 in hand. Shoto is really good against them because it stops their Pyldramon aggression really well. However, they do play Hexablow in this list, and they will bottom deck your Shoto as much and as quickly as possible. So if they do that, you really want an extra 1 in hand to just play out immediately the next turn. There's like an argument of like, oh, well, you can like keep multiple Shotos out at once, but like, again, they can kind of just try stunning those Shotos or hexballing them or doing both in like a single turn, because you will be giving them a lot of memory, and they're very, very memory efficient. So I like keeping just one in hand, and then like the rest of them will be on field. And then Rapid Machine makes it so our ace effects will pretty much always go off, which is really good. And Machine here I'm talking about is Machine, Metal Tyrannomon, not Machine, but just the Machine guy. They're unable to be bottom decked, obviously, so very nice. Even if they do the Imperial Dramon Dragon mode effect to try and prevent it, or they do the Progenitor effect to try and stop you, you still get the ace off, and you get like the guy out, which is good. For Demon Lords, Bygone is super important here. I've done a lot of testing with Demon Lords. They are a very interesting deck, and I think they're still going to be prevalent even in the meta now. Very good, very strong. However, they rely very heavily on activating Gate of the Deadly Sins, and that lets them cheat off the Agudamon, and then Agudamon attacks and gets something going. However, they cannot swing because they can't suspend with one or less sources. So if they do gates into Agudamon while you have Vikemon out, you just win the game from there. You just won the game. You do that. So that's something to keep in mind. And because we play Zwarts, the idea is essentially we just search with our level 5s, maybe use a Zwart or two to like search. The key pieces in this match, against here, by the way, we try killing them most of the time. Milling them is almost impossible because they play Paladins. I almost forgot. It's really important to mill them out. You can't really kill them. You're never really going to be able to fight for board because they have better 1-for-1 removal than you do. So you're just going to chill. Maybe try and bait them into milling more cards and stuff, but only after you find your Apocalypse will you do that. You have to find your Apocalypse, a Shoto or two, maybe a Mephisto or two, and you wait. And then you kind of just keep cycling your Vikemons over and over and over again. You use Zwart effect to play out the Vikemons over and over. You use Apocalypse to get the Vikemon on play effect if you need to. Mill a couple more cards as well. And you're just looking for the mill out. You never, ever, 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 ever swing into security against this deck. Ever. Their security is bad for them because it locks cards in there. If they Lucemon Chaos Mode you just let it happen. You just go, okay, I'll trash your security, I don't care. They recover one, that card's gone. That card's gone. Usually they'll have like 6 or 7 cards gone from the game. Some of them may be Agudamon, some of them may be useful options, some of them may be names they need to kill you, or like they're one of like sleep mode that is like really good for them. Like stuff like that is really important to kind of keep in mind as like a, okay, we dealt with it. We're gonna let them just die. They're just gonna die to us milling them, and that's okay for us. Watch for the names they have as well. They can keep a body on field using sleep mode and evo into Agudamon, or they can just kind of keep a body on field, period, and become really annoying. So the way that Gate works is at the end of your turn, they can delete it, and then they may play an Agudamon. So even if they don't have all the names they need, as long as they have 7 or more Digivolution cards with different names in their sources, that includes their options and stuff, they can just kind of pop the guy, and then Digivolve one of their remaining level 6s on field into the Agudo, and then try killing you that way. So it's really important to remember what's going to happen and like where. So this is actually a play that lets them play around the Vikemon. Is Belphemon Sleep Mode, place a Belphemon from trash underneath. You're immune. Start of your turn, or end of your opponent's turn, delete the gates. They then go into Agudamon for 6, I believe, on the crackback, and then swing into security after placing a bunch of names underneath. They pop one of your tamers, and then they try killing you that way. So it's really impactful to, even though you are safe, quote unquote, from Agudamon, to look at what they have going on and see kind of what's happening. Edamon's a really good pin in this matchup. If they do try to do like that weird gate play that I just mentioned, you can target them with Edamon. And so now they have to do this weird dance where it's like, well, fuck, if I delete the gate and swing, he's probably just going to ace me and try and like make it so that way even if I go into Agudo, nothing really changes for me and I'm kind of in a rough spot. Or I can just kind of leave the guy out and try going into it again next turn. I just need to try and find some way to get the Belmont back in the hand or get a name back in the hand in order to do it. So it's like a weird scenario for them, and it buys you like an extra turn. Again, you're just constantly trying to get them closer and closer to that mill out. APOC is the win con as mentioned, and almost always let Lucemon Chaos Mode trash the security. It's a very weird matchup, but there are a lot of matchups that have like that weird win condition for us, and that's something you have to kind of keep in mind. In this matchup, Rapid and Mephisto are really big. Obviously, Rapid being unable to be deleted essentially just protects all of your level 6s and up because they delete the lowest level with Dex Doruru. And Mephisto is really good because if they do delete the Mephisto, it's by an effect, and you're able to play out one of your powerful Dark Masters. Ideally, in a scenario, you usually Piedmon because their Dex Daruga is no longer protected from their trash, and you just kind of pop it. But something that you really need to watch out for is your turn can get stolen from you because of the way that your Ace Overflow interacts with this deck that does taunt. They taunt a lot, they taunt very well, they taunt for very cheap, and they're going to be able to do it over and over and over again, so you very rarely want to leave aces out for your opponent to kind of just steal turn from you. This is one of the matchups where I will just proactively delete my aces using my level 5s, give them 4 extra memory, and just say, okay, at least I'll get a turn on the crackback. Almost guaranteed, and that's a lot better than them getting 2 turns. A lot better than them getting 2 turns. Never de-digivolve the Dex Dorugoromon, by the way. It's a lot less scary on the field. It's a lot more manageable to just be like, okay, they have a big level 6 guy. He's on Alliance. He's gonna play a lot of dudes. Jeez, alright. Unsuspend. Rough. But when in trash, they can go into the other level 6, the Dorugoromon, and they can play a lot more aggressively, understanding that if you ever do delete it, they just get the board wipe, and that's really hard to play around. You have to also pay really close attention to the names in their trash. They will try really hard to get 1 of each level, and then they're gonna keep like cycling their cards back from the trash using the Lugamon egg that just whenever you place an SOC underneath, once per turn, you can digivolve into a card from trash for its cost. So you have to keep in mind like where you're leaving your opponent at. This is one of the matchups where modulating your de-digivolves is actually really important. Sometimes de-digivolving them for 3 is actually worse than just de-digivolving them for 2 because it gives them that name back in trash, or it puts them into a situation where you actually can't out the Digimon because of the name that's protecting them in trash. They're really big, but Alliance Medieval is bigger, so keep that in mind as well. It's a great removal. And then Rapid saves the board as mentioned before. Metal Tyrannomon is very useful here, but he's a lot less useful than Rapid. Metal's really useful because it is one of the decks that does digivolve, but I mean they will attempt to digivolve your guy, and then if it's they won't be able to, but if it's still the only one on board, they will still just delete it, and you're kind of really sad about that. Mill is very viable here, in my opinion. If you don't have like a good start or like a very aggressive start, or if your opponent is very like passive in the beginning, I think that Mill's the usual go-to for me. Obviously killing them is preferred just because, oh yeah, we can kill them really quickly and we're safer if our opponent's dead. But you can hit like some names, you can hit some like options, you can hit some tamers, and it makes things a little bit wonky, where checking them may actually just end up helping them kill you quicker. So if I'm not like in a hugely forward position, I will just play passive and respond more so to their answers, and then eventually mill them out. They usually play like a couple scrambles, so they may get like a scramble or 2, which means they'll buy themselves like an extra turn or 2, which is something to keep in mind. Bike is also a great way to split out their alliance checks. Takemika. Shoto is super important for a single turn. Funnily enough, he's really good for the first set of swings that Takemika Tsuchi does, and then afterwards he's a lot less impactful, though if you do have the mat, it does change things. Obviously the mat plus Shoto makes the 17k plus the Vikemon, obviously as mentioned before, stuns it, so that way it can only be up to 17k even with the Doruga, and if they're not playing the Dorugamon engine, they're only at 16k, which will make it even harder for them to swing into. You have to be pretty aggro here, because you really need to get them down to 3 security, and then you can kind of just like sit with a Metal Siegramon in the back and then wait for them to go into the checks for you. They're pretty consistently always going to go for the checks. I don't know a scenario where they're not going to go for the checks in my mind. And then promoting a Metal Sea, and then if you have 3 more memory, just going into a Paladin bottom decking your trash, getting back 3, and then swinging again for game is the, I think, textbook way that I deal with the deck, though it isn't like the only way you can. Chaos and Zwart, again, really good for defense. Like, you can't find the Vikemon stuff. Like, Chaos is just great because it says, all right, are you going to answer me? Yes, no. If you aren't, I'm going to block you, ideally. If you are, okay, then I'm going to do this other stuff. And Zwart is similar in that sense. Mephisto and Rapid do not work here, unfortunately. So we really do have to rely on our top end to kind of answer stuff. Vi can also, again, slow down alliance checks here, and Mill is a viable win con against this deck because of how quickly they do mill themselves out. Also, dropping an APOC early can actually just hurt them because they have to find Skull Beluchis if you do end up milling a couple key pieces that they really need in hand. Shadow Mother, we're pretty favored here. We're favored against a lot of control decks, so I'm just gonna kind of go through this really quick. Kind of just gotta keep the pressure on them, keep like checking and like poking. I usually run 2 Paladins in the matchup because this is actually one of the few matchups where double Paladin comes up pretty consistently. But as long as you have 1 in hand, it shouldn't be awful. APOC is a pretty viable win con, but it's not like the one that you're gonna be shooting for. Obviously, Aggression I think is gonna be the one that you're gonna be really gunning for. Just, you know, keep cards in hand. You're going to be outvaluing them with pieces. You're going to be outvaluing them with cards because you'll get a level 5 that adds 2, that then becomes a level 6 in the back. They won't be able to interact with it. You promote, you swing. If they don't have Shadow up, if they do have Shadow up, I mean, you start amassing like a huge board and dealing with all of their threats pretty consistently. You have Zwart, they don't, so they won't be able to go as wide as you, as quickly as you, and your cards are a lot stronger in the grand scheme of things. Magna X, you have to kill in this matchup, similar to Imperial, but you don't want to rush it because of the fact that they play a lot of really strong security bombs against you, being like Heaven's Judgment and the Structure Deck Magna. I think the strongest of the two being the Structure Deck Magna, being able to Digivolve and then Digivolve on top of a guy, shipping a source, and then bouncing something, can upwards of steal them like 8 to 9 memory in a single turn from just that one security check, which is fucking devastating. So it's something that you have to really pay close attention to here. Edamon and Rapid and Metal are very, very good in this matchup. The strongest card they have against you is the Structure Deck Magna, so you always want to try and play around it when you can. Edamon is really good against Magna X because it forces it to swing, obviously, then you get the like effects going and you start doing like the whole shebang. But because I cut Edda, Medieval is my go-to right now in the matchup, just because they will usually leave the Magnamon suspended, and it'll be like around like 18k, and then you'll just kind of alliance check for 26k into them, pop one of their Magmas, and they have to go into another one. You're kind of just consistently trying to reduce the amount of chip that you're taking while taking safe chip against them until eventually you just kind of win the board state because your cards are more valuable than theirs are. You really, really also, again, these decks are really good at bouncing. They're bouncers, okay? They're bouncing on it. So Zudos, Structure Deck Magnus, really important to play around, as well as going too wide can just really punish you with a Death X. So that's another something you can acknowledge at least. And then Medieval is, I think, a pretty prominent card, and it's something that you should just take into account in most matchups. Just be like, oh, they could be playing Medieval, and if they play Medieval, it's really good against you because you play out level 5 with 6k and they just pop it immediately. You don't get the effects and you don't get the ability to end of turn put something in the back. So you're best out to Medieval. Death X, Zudo Ace, Magna X is Medieval. Yellow Vaccine. Edamon is kind of useless in this matchup because they play the Nearamon egg that lets them trash a card in security when attacking to gain a memory, which essentially just completely invalidates everything you wanted to do to them, unless you target a different stack. Mill is viable in this matchup comparatively to the other one, and then Rapid X sucks to play against, so watch out for it and kind of remove it as quickly as possible. Even just dropping a Viker, like a Serafi, and just saying, get this guy off my field is fine. The rest of it is really similar to the Magna X matchup though. So Ancient Garuru, you really want to stop a lot of the chip that's coming from the rookies. If you can stop at least the rookies from ever hitting you in security and only letting the Ancient Garurumon do it with its bonus effect, they have to kill you over the course of 3 turns rather than just the 2. So it immediately adds an extra like turn for you to survive, which is huge. Vike can slow them down as well because of the way they have to like play with the Lobos and like the one attacking stuff, as well as with like the rookies being unable to swing. It's really useful. Have a level 5 that you don't mind being bounced is also really good. Just because if you have like 2 black level 5s, they won't be able to use the Ancient Garurumon to like attack you, which feels really good. They have to kind of like go a little bit further than just single Ancient Garurumon turn. Though with the amount of memory that you do give them, it's not too difficult. It just requires them to have more cards in hand. If you have Rapid or Metal, it insulates you entirely, which is really good. And then also setting up trash is something that I didn't mention in a lot of the prior matchups, but it's actually something that's really important. Being able to set up your trash for your Zorts and your Chaoses and your Apocs and just in general is really important. And decks like this that really try to bounce your stuff to hand make it really difficult to do so. So getting like sources underneath your level 6s that are getting bounced or your level 7s that are getting bounced is really important. And proactively deleting your own stuff so that way they're getting less value off of bouncing it is also really important because you want those cards in trash to get that value off of them. Chaos is really good as a defensive tool. If they Ancient Garurumon on your Chaos, you bounce it and you play out the 2 cards using whatchamacallit, Partition. And then if that ends their turn, you can just immediately go back into the guy again, get the same 2 sources that you just trashed underneath with the 2 that you just partitioned underneath, and you're Gucci. You're fine. Zudu Ace is strong here. They do Zudu Ace you, and it does hurt. And Zudu Ace is hurtful and mean, and it's something that you have to pay attention to in every single blue matchup you go into, because if they Zudu Ace you at a bad time, you can just lose the game. Keep that in mind, gang. DDG the Ancient Mon if you can as well, because it stops them from cheating out extra Tamers, which makes it actually really difficult for them to get those Tamers back until they find another Ancient Garurumon or the option card. Killing is the easiest win con, but sec checks can lose the game, so mill is quote-unquote safer. The reason I say it's quote-unquote safer is because in testing against this kind of list, killing is the easiest and safest win con if you don't hit anything scary in security from like a huge amount of Tamers for them to like get value off of, to like really scary options like the Full Moon Howling, like the 8 cost bouncing option. Mill is quote-unquote safer because you don't have to worry about that RNG, but you have to like weather so many Ancient Garurumon checks and rookies. I've done it before. It's definitely possible. In one of the 2 games I ended up losing, or 3 games I ended up losing, I think I tied 1, lost 2. In the Ultimate Cup that I got 17th place with this, was against a Ancient Garurumon, and we were in game 3, and he was down to 3 cards left in deck, and he went Ancient Garurumon, Ancient Garurumon, Ancient Garurumon, all in the same turn, and was finally just able to eke out victory because he wasn't able to kill me that turn. On the crackback, it comes back to me. I draw. If it's Apocalypse, I win the game. If it's not Apocalypse, I lose. Draw. It's not Apocalypse. I end up losing the game. It's fine. It's understandable. It's just really difficult to mill out a really aggressive deck like this. Rapid and Metal are very, very good here. Royal Knight. Counterplay. Vikemon works kind of similar here to Demon Lords. If they pop their Drazel, their Royal Knights can't swing, which is good. You have to watch out for the Aces, their Structure Deck Magnas in Security, and their own Medieval. They can play like a whole like suite of like cards that really just hurt us badly. Killing them is a lot more realistic, but you can try milling them. Just acknowledging that if you swing into Security, whatever is swinging in Security will die. Incentivizes you to just like swing with your level 5s, get them back with like a Zort, swinging with them again on the crackback is like the idea. Milling is really difficult because they do like run like 1 to 2 paladins, and you're not the only mill deck in the format, so they're probably going to be very cognizant of that game plan of yours. Shrink 1 for 1 is really good for us though, because if we delete their body and then they delete us, and then we delete them, and then they delete us over and over and over again, we come out on top just because we will be adding 2 cards to 4 cards to our hand every turn, and they will not be. They'll just be drawing 1 and then praying. So that's really good. I think that's like the main takeaways there. Is just try killing them. Accept that you're just gonna be trading over and over and over again, and just accept that that's like the kind of way the matchup goes. I haven't thought about a different way to kind of deal with them. I think it's probably still in their favor. Unlike Demon Lords, which is like almost like 100% win rate for us, this one is like a probably like 45% win rate for us, 55 for them, just because we're never gonna get close to milling them, and so Vikemonding every turn and then having them trade for it and then trading back. We just kind of have to hope that we stop them from amassing enough resources in their Drazel before we can like start actually threatening them really hard. Mirage. Some stacks can't be redirected, so build your board accordingly. Understand that like, oh damn, oh shit, they're going into their level 7 burst mode and I can't redirect it with my Shotos and they're killing me and I'm dead. Also be careful about adding too many cards to your hand. We're really good at having like 14 to like 18 cards in our hand by like turn like 5, and a Mirage player goes, thank you kindly. Wow, you've been adding a lot of cards recently, good sir. What if we killed you for that? It also makes Zwording really weird because you will like Zword for like 6 and then they'll gain like 5 and they'll be at 10 memory and then you'll be like end of turn, do some stuff, but they're at 10 memory and they're Mirage and they're gonna try killing you, and it's probably gonna work, unfortunately. It's really scary there. Medieval is a fantastic casual card. They Mirage you, they go, pay your taxes, and then Medieval goes, I'm a tax evader actually. I'm a tax evader, I'm suspending you, I'm killing you. Really good. Rapid Metal need to be seen here. Rapid or Metal need to be seen here. They gotta be seen. They gotta. Your opponent will just not swing if you have the Rapid out. Then you unsuspend, swinging with the Rapid, it dies in security. Please God, let it die in security. Then you Digivolve the Dark Master you played, play back out the Rapid, Digivolve their Mirage again, you go back into the whole shebang, and you're really happy about it. You need 3 to 4 level 5s on board to make sure you can ace if you don't have Rapid. If you don't have Rapid, you need like 4 level 5s on board in order to guarantee that your opponent cannot just ignore your aces, which means 2 completely uninteracted with Zwarts, which means in the fastest timeline, you go level 5 Searcher, search top 4, pop, place a Dark Mattress in the back. Your opponent's at 6. Your opponent gives you memory back, some amount of memory. You promote the Zwart. Oh, you promote the Dark Master. You Digivolve into Zwart for 6. You mill. You mill a level 5. You play both out. You pop the Zwart. You place another Dark Masters in the back. Your opponent does not get rid of those 2 level 5s. You promote next turn. You Digivolve into another Zwart. You play out 2 more level 5s that you just milled off the top. And then finally, that board is insulated from a single turn of Mirage killing you. But it requires them to do nothing, and by the time that you have done all of that, they should just be dead. They should just be dead. Mill can happen, don't get me wrong, but it's very similar to the Ancient Garurumon matchup. It's safer, quote unquote, to kill them if you hit the nuts. I mean, fucking sucks. And you just have to keep that in mind whenever you're doing it. Hexablau is also mean, similar to Imperial. Protect the Shoto. Really important to protect the Shoto, because sometimes their Mirages can't be redirected, and so being able to use the Mother Shoto combo in that situation is really nice. Galaxy Toolbox. Very similar to the Mirage matchup, unless at the top end. So we kind of have to figure that out very quickly when we're playing against them. Which top end are they on? Because it really does change the way that we have to play. Red, they play big beat sticks and are a lot more aggro in the way they kind of want to do things, whereas blue is a lot more comfortable just like playing out a level 6, sitting on it, and then trying to kill you on like the crackback. Level red will just swing into you, go into the level 6 mid-swing, do like 3 checks, unsuspend, they're unaffected, and say, next turn you're dead, by the way. Blue is like the Mirage matchup and Imperial matchup kind of like combined. They like play like Ancient Guru, Hexablau, Mirage, and they go into the stack really quickly. One of the benefits though is that like once you remove a stack, it's really easy to like put some pressure on them because they have to take that time building up. Unlike Imperial, but kind of like Mirage in that sense. Mirage, again, if you out a stack, usually they have to take some time to build up a second one. Red. How do I explain that red matchup? Red is like Gallant, which we'll get to in a little bit, but just like a weaker variant of Gallant for us because they're deleting a lot less and they're just kind of going to Gallant X, and we don't really care too much about Gallant X. Gallant X isn't the scary part of the Gallantmon deck for us. We don't care about Gallant X. We're giving them a lot of memory anyways. We don't care about the protection. We don't care about a lot of that stuff. For Jessamon, they got very big. They're very big. They're very large. They're very large. They're also immune to deletion, and sometimes even just Digimon effects in general, and just effects in general sometimes. I don't even know what the deck does sometimes. They just go, I have 8 Digimon on board and we're all immune, and I just go, okay, I believe you. Vikemon will buy you a turn though. You just go Vikemon, and they go, you can't Digimon me. I go, okay, I know your Digimon can swing except for that guy. And they go, alright, well, can't kill you. I go, yeah. Don't Digivolve the GX though if you can. Like, unless you're gonna kill it that turn. Don't Digivolve that guy. Don't give them a Jessamon, because they'll just go back into a Jessamon and GX, and that's so much worse. That's so much worse for us. That's so much worse 9 out of 10 times. Their sisters have Decoy and Blocker too, which is something to keep in mind. And Mill and Killing are, I think, equally viable here. We're not super scared of their security, but also we want to kill them. But they go through their deck very fast, so Milling is also pretty equally viable. Edamon's pretty nice in this matchup, though obviously I'm not playing it. So, but just keep that in mind. You know, Edamoning them is really good. Edamoning them, they swing with Jessamon, you blast into the Vikemon, you Digivolve the Jess X. If you have like a Mother Shadow blocker, you can just block that. Their other cards cannot swing, and they're kind of just stuck trying to build up a board again, and you're in a really good spot. Purple Hybrid, I don't know why this one came out like this. This is fine, I don't mind it, I'm just curious. Purple Hybrid, counterplay. You know, find out the variant they're on, fast. Some mill a lot more than others do. You get the Mervamon variant, you know, the regular, just the Duskmon and Prey variant, you got like the Yellow Hybrid, you got the APOC variant. Figure out what they're on very quickly. That's really important to know what you need to find in the deck. And it will also really help out in games 2 and potentially games 3, knowing what they're on. Because like if they're like on a heavy mill variant, you really need Paladin. If they're like on a lot more just like more traditional variant, like Shoto is pretty important. If they're on like the more like stun, like Yellow Hybrid variant, like you can try playing a little bit more greedy and not worry too much about like getting completely milled out, because they're going to do that a lot slower than other decks will. Vakamon and Mega Gargo can quote-unquote stun their tamers. Again, mentioned like Vakamon stops them from suspending to get like the Belgermon in trash. Mega Gargo does kind of something similar. Milling and Killing are both good here. Depending on the variant, it's safer to like kill Yellow Purple Hybrid than it is to kill like Merva, like Duskmon variant Purple Hybrid, because they're playing like rivals and stuff, which is something that's really important. Ultimate is really good protection if you have like spare Shoto or Metal Sea, because you can just like block their Belger, which is really good. But also like even if their Belger is like huge, you just let it go through, they do the check, and then end of turn they delete, and then they delete the Ultimate Chaos, and then Ultimate Chaos plays out 2 cards, which one of them can be the Vikemon stunning the rest of their tamers on board again. Fighting Paladin mode can be usually, I think, probably really important, no matter the variant, but I think Yellow Hybrid is the less important one to like find Paladin in, so I wouldn't worry too much there, but the other ones I would definitely recommend finding it faster than not. Oh god, is there something else I want to say about this matchup? I don't think there's actually much else to say there. For Lord Knight, D-Digi is like really prominent in this matchup, so you get to keep that in mind when you're going for aces and stuff. Edamon is useful, but not enough by himself, just because of the way that Lord Knight works. If they just like alliance swing, even if they do get Digivolved, they're still gonna be like 18k, and they're gonna beat over your fucking ace that you just went into with Eda. So usually you need some kind of backup there. They also really good at stopping you from acing, which is really sad. They kind of just stop your guys from Digivolving. They get huge. They get massive. Not bigger than Medieval, but massive. Medieval does really mess with them, because they like to play cards out by effect, and if they try doing that with Medieval out, they do just get sent to hell. Angry Birds. This matchup is really easy and really hard depending on the variant you're running into. So stopping early checks hurts their Sora, because Sora plays inversely, where the less cards you have in security, the bigger cards she can play out. And once you get to 3, that's kind of like the threshold where the deck starts popping off and doing really insane, disgusting stuff. Bikemon can stop the loop with Garuda and Garuda X though, because it stops them from swinging, as mentioned prior. Christy is really scary, as she gets around the Bikemon. Christy gives them give a Digimon on deletion, play out a guy, and then play out a Biomon from hand of trash. You get that guy deleted, because he's gonna get deleted. There's not much you can do about that. Usually it's gonna be an Ancient Greymon that deletes himself. Then Biomon gets played out. Biomon bounces Christy to hand to Digivolve into Garudamon. Digivolve into Garudamon. Garudamon plays out Christy. Christy gives that guy on deletion. Then you Digivolve into Garuda X You add back a card. Sora does some stuff too. You can just keep doing like that whole like shebang, but you can just keep like Christie looping over and over and over and over again. And there's not much you can do about it, and you die, and you die, and you die. So there has to be like better ways than just Vikemon stopping them. They pop a lot, so Mephisto and Rapid are really good at protecting you because you can guarantee some aces. Some great way, again, very similar to like the other hybrid matchups, is de-evolving their level 6 Ancient, so that way they don't get like that huge value swing from it. Chaos is also good as a defensive card, because if they do pop it, again, similar, Partition does start popping off. Mill is possible, but it puts more card in the trash for them to add, which is a little scary. Similar though to checking them, kind of to like other hybrid matchups. It's like milling them is probably safer, but it's also harder because they're so aggressive that killing them is usually better. But because of the way that they exist, because you're swinging into their security, you're also likely to give them tamers, and the tamers are really what lets them pop off. And it's like a weird like balance you to try to decide in the moment like what you want to do. Killing is a lot more viable. Oh, I literally said that, but aggression is milling. Oh, look at that. I know something crazy. Insects. This matchup is actually really easily hard, if that makes sense. Like Medieval trivializes this matchup. They're like 22k DP, and it's like, okay, 26k DP, beat over with them with Medieval, and you don't care. Edamon on a second stack, which Tyrant just plays out an extra guy. You Edamon them on that second stack. Their Tyrant isn't suspended yet, and then you can just Ace to like fuck with that Tyrant. Only things that you really have to watch out for them is like the redirections from Izzy, but like you're just gonna try and go under pretty consistently, and try and get around the Izzy as much as possible. Red Hybrid, very similar to like the Ancient Garurumon matchup. Shadow Mother is not good blocker here since they pierce and are big, but it's still good for like stopping the rookie spam stuff. You can summon Tamers where you can with like Mega Gargo, but like again, they have ways around it with the amount of memory that you give them. You have to like try and understand that Vikemon, while can really hurt them, if they have the cards in hand for it, they can still play around it. So don't bank on that as like your win con to like just completely stopping them. Rapid and Mephisto though are very, very good in this matchup. Mephisto, if you they just like go into like one of their level 4s and then it pops the Mephisto, you're great. With Ancient Garurumon, they can pop a Digimon with they may pop a Digimon with equal or less DP, so they'll usually target the mother, preventing you from getting the Mephisto pop. But I think it's still good. I think Rapid is better here, obviously, if you have the showdown. This matchup again is mill, but it's usually too hard to weather the storm, very similar as I mentioned before, so it's usually just better to go for the kill in this matchup. Again, I've mentioned prior, but I'll mention it again here just for the sake of redundancy. If your opponent has like a weaker start, or you have a very, very strong start, you can try going for the kill, like Medieval, like really early, and like you're just checking very fast, you're checking really hard. Maybe you're even checking with level 5s and are living. That's a situation where like you can definitely try pressing for the kill. Otherwise, though, I think I'd usually just try and weather the storm and go for the mill. Against Gallant, very similar to Ancient Garurumon. They beat over Mother very easily, so Shoto is not as valuable here with like the Mother combo as much as it is in other matchups. Gallant X Protection is something that you can forget. Like you can like swing in with like a Machinedramon and forget they're completely immune. So it's something that you really keep in like the front of your mind, so that way you don't make like those small misplays, because those small misplays will cost you the game overarchingly. They go really plus off of deleting stuff as well, so just keeping your board clear of easy targets is really nice. And then Mephisto and Rapid are super important here for deletion protection, though Rapid has a little notation around it because of the fact that they can get around the Rapid effect with the Gallant X, and similar to Mephisto, they can get around the or similar to Rapid, they can get around the Mephisto with the Gallant X DP reduction. The reason Mephisto is a little bit better is because of the fact that their lower level cards have to delete the Mephisto, whereas the Gallant X can play around it a little bit better. Chaos is really good here, just because they try deleting it, you get Partition, and they don't try deleting it, you're threatening a very strong swing on the crackback. Medieval and Mother Alliance gets over almost all of Gallant X's on the field, and then killing them is for sure the win con here. Milling them is almost always a mistake, unless they get like really low. Unless it goes like a long game, they got like 8 cards left, then sure you can like try Apocalymoning them, but like they play scrambles, so like they'll buy like them a turn probably. They very good at killing. They plus off of cards and trash as well, which, sorry, hold on. I remember what I wanted to say about this list. Because I'm playing Golfbond now, being able to bottom deck Velgers is really important as a means of actually interrupting their stuff. Being able to bottom deck Velgers and Tamers and Duskmons, so that way they can't recur them and do a lot of stuff there. Other matchups where that's actually really important as well. Hold on, we're just gonna give me a second. Scroll back up. Not here, not here, not here. Against like any ancient deck, being able to get rid of like Tamers and like hybrid cards in the trash is really good. Against Take Mikazuchi, Golfmon has some utility because it can bottom deck Takes, Kazuchis, and other like key pieces they may need. Against decks, it has like some utility. Against Demon Lords, it has some utility. And like those are the ones that I forgot to mention Golfmon in. Again, I don't know how good Golfmon is actually going to be, but there's like a potentiality that it is decent enough, and I will keep you guys posted at some point. Followed up, Levia. Levia is actually a pretty easy matchup for us as long as we play it properly. I think it's like 80% are our favor, unironically. Things you have to watch out for is like Biting Crush. Insecurity is really painful. And Zwart can hurt you because of the fact that you play by effect. Your opponent may just like be waiting for that moment, so you have to make sure you don't fall into like an easy trap there. Security checks can also be devastating, so play around those when able. Like, in my opinion, this is very similar to the Demon Lord matchup where I just don't check most of the time, and I just say their security is trapping them. Trading with the Levia stack 1-for-1 is fantastic for us. They're a stack deck, and they will have to rebuild it. And it takes them a lot longer to rebuild their stack than it takes for us to just play their Medieval Gallant or Vikemon or something along those lines. Mill is for sure the move in this matchup, in my opinion. They don't have anything that they can play out from our trash because we don't play any level 4s or lowers. And then if we flood our board with other D-Reapers and stuff, our opponent also can't use the Octopus guy, the level 4 Octopus, to play out the token to our side of the field to get their effects. So if we just kind of like keep our board very wide, have like a Shoto or two, a couple Tamers, and we just kind of chill, and then we just go for like a mill condition. Usually they lose the game, which is really nice for us. Against Shine, you really, really need Chaos in this matchup, as it's our only way, it's our only defensive play that sticks. It's Rapid's useless, Mephisto's useless, any level 5 is pretty much useless because they can just hit them with like a -3k and then pop it with one of their other inherits, and it's only 2 inherits of like a 6 inherit Digimon, so they can pop like 3 level 5s pretty easily, just going up their stack and doing stuff even before they swing, which is devastating. And then they Digivolve and they pop something else. They can pop like 4 Digimon on your turn, and it's like, okay, damn, well, shit. Killing them early is good. I think it's probably the safest and most sane win con, because they're not going to be digging enough to like actually threaten mill. But even then, an early APOC is good because you can just like potentially hit some good stuff that they're not going to be able to get back from trash. Vikemon also stops their Marcuses from swinging, which is something to keep in mind. Just like playing out a Vike and then just looking at them, and then they try to do some stuff, and then you can't swing a Marcus, and then they have to like Digivolve raw. Feels really good, especially because all of their Shine stuff really needs their Marcuses to swing to actually get that aggression going. And then if it gets to late game, you can try Weathering the Storm with Mother Shotos, but it's it's a rough matchup. It is a rough matchup. Edamon is pretty good as well as they can't with DK. But that is the Mother Shoto Dark Masters Megazoo Primer. I hope that you guys found some good information here. I hope that I at least sounded like something I knew I was talking about, because I feel like I do. I feel like I've put a lot of effort, time, and energy into figuring out not just what this deck is good at, but what this deck is bad at, how to fix that, and how to feel somewhat confident in all of the current meta contenders, and even some of the off-meta contenders. Decks I didn't list here, like Machine, or like Sakakon, or Angels, or, you know, a couple other things. This was a very long primer. I figured that those like really niche decks probably didn't need a specific primer for. They're also pretty simple matchups. Like Angels, you kind of look at it. Now you guys have seen the way the deck plays out and like what's good. You can kind of look at it and go, oh, Vikemon stops them from swinging with all of their Angels. They hard play out. Great. You trade very well 1-for-1 with them. And because you draw a lot better than they do, you're just going to be trading 1 for 1 and then trying to poke them out over time. Great, fantastic. You know the matchup very well now. Against like Machine, okay, they play like a big dude. He tends to like can't be de-evolved, can't be like DP reduced. Okay, Medieval, suspend, beat over him for 26k, and they cry and die is usually the move. If they can be de-evolved, just de-evolve them. If they, there's just like a whole host of things that you can kind of just interact with them there. And there's a lot of matchups that are just like that, where it's a very simple answer for our deck. So I figured focusing more so on matchups that are a lot more complicated in the way that we have to play them out. Like a great example of a very complicated matchup is like Demon Lords. It's not an intuitive way to play to say, okay, so I have to mill them out, and the way that I mill them out is actually by cycling Vikemons and then playing around them, sacrificing their gate, but not playing out the Agudo, and instead keeping the level 6 on board that they had, so that way they can Digivolve it on their turn, delete some of my stuff, have the huge Agudomon, and then be able to kill me in that position. And things I have to watch out for is obviously the 1-0 sleep mode that some of them play, while also still playing around the regular Agudo, and I had to keep cycling my level 6 ace over and over and over and over again. I want you to understand, this matchup by itself was like a 20-80 matchup in their favor. I was never able to figure out how to beat it until I ran my head into the wall over and over and over again until I finally found out, like, oh shit, they play Agudo from the thing and it doesn't have sources. Vikemon is able to make use of that fact. And then what happens afterwards? Oh wait, they actually aren't able to play out their cards for cheap anymore. And we're going to be able to outvalue them because our deck is meant to be playing our cards out for very expensive and theirs aren't. So we win from that position. Okay, cool. But they're still going to kill us at some point. How do I kill them? Every time I swing, very similar to Royal Knights, I die in security instantly. And unlike Royal Knights, they trade more favorably 1 for 1. And I'm like, why don't I just mill them out with APOC? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's for sure the move, because they mill themselves out so much quicker. Or Takamikazuchi is another great one, where like I spent all of like BT 17 and 18 and a little bit of 19 being like, this is the worst matchup in the world. I think this is like a 100-0 matchup. Like, we cannot do anything against them other than just pray they brick. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, Tai, Vikemon, Mother Shoto provide a nice little like barrier here. Zort and Chaos provide a nice little barrier here. Mephisto and Rapid do not work. Do not be playing around our level 5s at all. Vikemon slows down at least a little bit. Mill is potentially viable to play around. And then also the 3 security threshold for them is something that they just don't know until you do it to them. And then they will play a lot differently, understanding that if they swing here and they don't kill you, you are going to kill them from 3 security because they will have 2 bodies out and your paladin is going to kill them. And like all of these like little like points, it's like, okay, so this gives us like a couple more percentages, like this gives us a couple more percentages, this gives us a little blah 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 blah. Each one of these is like a little bit of percentage points to finally stack up to where I'm like, okay, this is still like an unfavored matchup in my mind, but it's like a 40-60% matchup where if I am able to at least find my pieces, I feel safe. The problem is just like getting there before they get there. And this deck is really fast, so that's why I still think it's favored in their position, because I give them so much memory and they're so quickly, and they can get there so quickly that if they just high roll me, I do just tend to lose anyways. But if they can't get there really quickly, I feel a lot safer. Like every turn that we get past back without them going into Utake, I'm like, okay, we have a better chance, we have a better chance, we have a better chance until we have like we won. So I've decided to focus on matchups like that. Anyways, enough rambling. I have to go edit this and then export it and then upload it. But hopefully it's out today on the 28th, like around like 9 p.m. If not, it'll be out the day after and I'll just be like, I'm sorry guys. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for asking for this. I love talking about things, and this deck being one of the things I enjoy talking about. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe. If you have any suggestions for this deck or for just content in general, please let me know in the comments below. I do read your guys' comments. I really appreciate all of you, and I wish you guys a wonderful rest of your day.